This is a story about Jimmy B and Julie too. Two good buddies with nothing better to do. Sit around the bar, get drunk and talk some shop. When they get started, it's really hard for them to stop. Julie B with likes of beer on ice. Jimmy B thinks a Bloody Mary would be nice. Once they decided to call on a couple friends. Thought this chat should be something doesn't end. Singing, come on, drink storm with me. Come on, drink storm.
Welcome to the next episode of Drinkstorming with Jim and Julie. These podcasts are just an opportunity for us to talk to our friends from Synergy, both our partners and our members, learn a little bit about them personally, learn a little bit about their business. Totally unscripted, just conversations where we get to chat and learn what's going on. So cheers, Aaron. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers. Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
So Aaron, I will never forget the first time we met you in person, had talked to you on the phone, you came to a meeting. And one of the things that we love about you is just your humility and your sense of humor and the way that you connect. And I remember you saying, I walked in here and I'm sure you guys are looking at me, guy in the skinny jeans with the big hair. And I mean, that was just.
and I wore a hat today too. It's under there somewhere.
Keep that hair down. Yeah. So, you walked in and you just made that connection. And I think your background really helped people to feel comfortable with you. So can you share a little bit about how you got into this deal?
Yeah, it's interesting. People, they're like, "Oh, the passion you have for this and excitement." I go, "It's the only thing I have because it's all I've ever done." So it's not that there's not like it's just that's all I got is to just talk about what really happened in my life. I grew up, in a small town in Michigan. My grandparents were farmers. In fact, I was just there last weekend, and it's awesome to see they passed away, but my cousin took over their farm, and seeing him, really make it, what it had been for decades has been really cool. But my dad was in manufacturing. All my aunts and uncles were in the trades. And so, I often say that my playground growing up was a manufacturing facility. So I'll actually tell you a funny story as part of that upbringing. So I spent a lot of time in manufacturing facilities. I was dirty all the time. I had a pure black German Shepherd named Thunder. It was our family dog. And the reason my dad always bought pure black German Shepherds is because they wouldn't show dirt and grease and metal shavings and all the different things. If you got any other color, it was a shop dog, right? It was a shop dog and a family dog. So it's like, what dog can we get that's not going to be dirty all the time? So we always had pure black German Shepherds. And when he was young, I would always be making forts. I'm 5, 6, 7 years old. And so I was making forts in the factory and things like that. Well, one time I carried him because he was still a puppy. I carried him to the top of a set of 4 crates. And I got into the top of the crates and I'm in there probably 6, 7 years old with my dog Thunder, and I fell asleep. My dad could not find me for an hour and a half. He's like, "Where did Aaron go? Where's the dog?" He was getting ready to call the cops, and he looked up in the small factory. This is like 100 by 100 factory, not a very big one. And he goes, "I bet you he's up on top of those crates." And he was reliving the story with me last weekend. I fell asleep, but it just gives you a sense of like everything around me was blue collar, and it was something I took a lot of pride in. And I was in a bubble, the kind of which that blue collar was what you did. Right? That's how you made a living. Everyone I knew and loved that loved me, this is how they made a living. And so to me, it wasn't the idea of like, hey, I'm going to grow up, no offense to the accountants and the lawyers and all those people out there, but that wasn't on the table because it was like, hey, this is how you make a living. It's how I made a living. It's how my grandfather made a living, like all these folks. And what I realized through that experience was that having full appreciation for how hard that work is paramount to not just being an appreciative professional, but I think a good human being. I think if you don't appreciate men and women that work with their hands at some level because you've done it before or you have seen the struggle that it takes, you never have full appreciation for how this world we see around us happens. And as such, I think you're really not appreciating all the things we capture and share as creature comforts. And so to me, that upbringing was pretty natural and certainly effective for me to understand the world from that way. But I also saw that the world wasn't like that. The rest of my generation was much different and didn't value those things. And so XOI was really started as a response to that. And how do we connect those things? How do we take technology to connect those things and really pay respect to people that have done those jobs by allowing them to earn a living in a different way? So that's my upbringing in a nutshell, and that's my fall asleep on top of a great story I've never told before, but yeah, it was one of many.
So Aaron, that's a cool story. So from the time that you fell asleep on the crates with your pooch,
yeah,
to where you're at in Nashville, leading really some groundbreaking technology. What were the stops in between? How did you go from Michigan to Nashville, and what led you?
Yeah, I when I came back I ended up going to college down in Nashville, and small country town in Michigan. I was like, I'm going to a huge city. Nashville, it's funny, anyone that was around Nashville in kind of 1999, 2000, 2001, you wouldn't call it a huge town. Now, since then, it's definitely got a lot bigger. But in my world, it might as well have been New York City or LA or whatever, right? Because it was, we were in the country. And so I needed to get out of Michigan, and I was going to go do that. And initially, a lot of my interest was in the music business, which is about the worst time to be in in the music business. If you recall Napster and all the things that were happening around that, and the music business was hemorrhaging big time. They're trying to figure out what they were going to be because records weren't going to be sold at $18 a piece anymore. They were going to be singles, and it was free online and all the things. But I had that experience. I continued to come home. I didn't do a lot of spring breaking. I didn't go to Cancun. I came home and I ran machines at the family business. That was my dad needed help, and I wanted to earn money, and that was kind of a lot of those periods of time in my life. And then still kind of, after graduating, kind of looking at it going, what do I do next? I came home and ran machines. So the first year and a half after graduation, I was running 10, 12 hours a day in Brown and Sharp chuckers, for those of you who know secondary machining, machining mining bits, bearing spacers, all these different things. And, kind of had this entrepreneurial spirit by watching my dad do it. And he was in a certain business situation that wasn't very good. And my 24-year-old self at that time convinced him, you need to get out of this business relationship. Let's go start something together. And so we started a company called Peak Manufacturing. My dad's a brilliant machinist, absolutely top notch. I think, I'm biased, but one of the best in the world at what he does. Not a big sales guy, not a big I'm going to hire the team guy, not a big I'm going to figure out how not to get taken advantage of in contracts. And I had enough schooling and probably thought of myself a lot more than I should have, but I was like, I got all this. And we built this business. He built the machines. I hired the people, worked with the customers, managed the plant. And I learned entrepreneurship on just a trial by fire basis, because I'm young, didn't know anything, thought I knew things, didn't, but had to figure it out because my dad was the machine guy and I had to run the business. And so that experience for me was, again, learning really, really quickly what business was, what managing people was. And then, we were really successful in the business that still exists today. It's one of the largest suppliers of bearing spacers in the world. I could not shake the fact that there are a lot of father-son businesses out there that, the son's there because daddy let him be. It was like the demon on my shoulder. And even though I wasn't one of those sons, and I've met in contracting a lot of both examples. I met the example where the son takes the business to a whole nother level. I met the example where the son's like, yeah, dad hooked it up and I'm just going to sit here on a gravy train and just collect the checks, right? I just had this insecurity, I think, as I look at it now, that I was like, I'll always be part of his thing. Even though I've done a huge part of this, I have to go make it on my own. I have to go prove that I can do it without him. And so I left that business, divested any ownership I had in it. I mean, it would have been easy street for sure, right? Compared to what I went and did, which does not take a salary for 4 years, start XOI, do all the different things. But I had to kill that demon on my shoulder that would have said, hey, you're always going to be viewed as someone that's only successful because of that, And I don't diminish anyone that does it, but that was really, it was one other stop in construction manufacturing between those two things and XOI, but the last 10 years have been XOI.
You've had some incredible growth and success. And so these 10 years that you're talking about, any startup, right? You're talking about having to make a lot of sacrifices along the way.
Yeah.
What's been the key to your success? If you look back and you talk to business owners, maybe first generation, second generation, what are some of the keys that you look back and say, wow, this is what helped us get to where we're at today?
I think one thing that, it's interesting. I had some watching my dad build his company as a young man, his first company, which he sold, and this was the second one we started together. I think I had an appreciation for what entrepreneurship took by watching him kill himself to make that business happen. But you don't, better than most, I'll say, because early in life, we were kind of food stamps, government subsidized housing. We kept our food outside of Michigan. We couldn't afford a refrigerator. By the time I was in high school, my dad sold his first business. He bought a Corvette. I mean, it was like the dichotomy between the two was crazy, right? But I saw the in between, and I was like, oh wow, this is what it's like to go from living in the projects. When I was a kid, someone got a family got murdered next door. I mean, crazy stuff, right? To living in a 5,000 square foot house and there's a Corvette out front. It was a ton of sacrifice. It was a ton of hours. Even all of that experience as a kid watching it didn't make me ready for this like I thought I needed to be. I thought what I really needed to be, because it's that hard. So what I would say to business owners is that you need to be willing to do things, and this is a well-worn kind of phrase, that no one else will do to have what no one else has. And I am not the smartest guy in the room by any stretch. I always tell people I'm working with a 4-cylinder engine when a lot of people may be working with a 6, 8, 10, or 12. But my 4-cylinder will run all day and yours won't. And that's what I've always stuck to, right? I'm going to run the 4-cylinder 24/7, because eventually that car will win if the V12 is only running for 5 or 6 hours a day. And so I just looked at that. To me, it was a superpower, because I saw my dad do it. I looked at myself and I went, I'm not going to be the smartest guy in the room. How do I find the smartest people and outwork everyone? And that to me is the core. And to our success has been getting a great team, really smart. And the second big piece is that care passionately about our customers. When you sit in an internal XOI meeting, the arguments you hear is arguments about, and they're almost always healthy, not always, almost always, about how we're going to serve the customer more effectively, because people really care. And that's a good thing, right? I like friction when it comes to, no, but our customers need this, technicians need this. We can't do that, because the technician experience will stink if we do that. And those are the kind of friction points you see in our business. So I think that unabashed kind of care for that user, I think that the humility that comes with realizing where you're good at and what you're not, and finding good people to surround yourself with that can support you. I think those are two big things that come to mind off the top of where success has come from.
I love that. It's like healthy conflict, right? Challenging one another to get better at whatever it is that you're doing. That's great.
Yeah. It's important.
Is that one of the keys to finding good people, is knowing what you don't do well?
Yeah, I think, when you're early in a business and you're wearing a lot of hats, I think the self-awareness to realize what you don't do well is critical to allowing yourself to grow. I think a lot of people want to play hero ball for too late in their journey, whether it's because they're insecure, it's their baby, whether it's ego driven. They want to be the hero of the business in some way. And I think that the reality that you can find people that do it a lot better than you, and empowering them and getting out of their way actually allows you to express your critical functions more effectively is one of the biggest things I've learned. And yes, I think that self-awareness is really an important part of that. Yeah.
And you've obviously had to recruit some very talented people to XOI as you've grown. And it's something our industry is challenged with, right? Is that you mentioned blue collar and industry, and I think we're such a well-kept secret. COVID showed that our teams kept working while our neighbors and family and friends maybe were home. We kept everybody working. And I have to believe when you started XOI, you never thought you'd be helping recruit people in our industry, but you are. I mean, this technology by its very nature is making this an even more attractive industry for people. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you see that as well, right?
Yeah, it's trying to start to measure up or kind of lift up what we do in this industry to make it closer to what these kids in this generation's consumer experience looks like, right? I mean, think about what they're doing with their own time. And we talk a lot about like micro learning content and like the fact that we're giving technicians bite-sized pieces of content. That wasn't because we didn't want to load up 52-minute videos into workflows. We did that because we have a TikTok generation of attention span, right? And we know that step 1 is 12 seconds, step 2 is 32 seconds. This is how they consume information in their personal lives. Thus, if we can provide that same experience, this is how they can learn, have information at the moment of need. And so that is how we try to mirror some of the experiences in XOIs with their consumer experience. And I think a lot of technology companies miss that. They go, well, yeah, but don't you want the 52-minute full video on the compressor change out? And it's like, no, I don't, because then I got to find minute 17, right? And then it's a pain in the butt. And that's not how they consume content today. So yeah, I do think that's an important part of it. The recent deal we did with UA is awesome. It's like a dream come true for me in a lot of ways, because it's like, gosh, we are getting kids in school to leverage XOI and then validate their training in the field. And that is going to be so powerful for those groups to be able to say, hey, did everything in the classroom, the lab connect out in the field? Because those, we all know in our experiences, talking about it, discussing it, chalk talk, as they say, is one thing. Doing it in the field is a completely other thing. Having the real experience is a completely different thing. So I think that relationship reminds me of engaging with the younger generation and being able to give them a tool they can really use.
Yeah, that's huge. When I saw that announcement, I was so happy for you and for our industry. I've had the pleasure of being on different committees here locally with the Pipe Fitters Union, and to see you now aligned with the UA is great for our industry. It's great for our clients, right? To be able to share this type of information. So kudos.
Yeah.
That's cheers.
We don't have the opportunity. Thank you.
I'll drink to that, Aaron.
I'm going to drink this very strong tea to that.
Is that what's in there?
That's what's in there. See that if it has a string on it, it definitely doesn't have alcohol in it, right? I mean, it's obviously tea. I mean,
telltale sign right there. So you're very passionate. That comes through even just in our conversation. You love what you do, and as you said, 24/7. You've got the pedal to the metal. So how does someone like you, Aaron, who is full throttle, how do you relax? How do you fill your tank, as Steve Thomas tells us?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind for sure is my wife and kids. My wife Stacy and I just celebrated our 15-year anniversary. We've been together since we were 15, and we're both turning 40 this year, the big 40. I get to tease her because she turns 40, and this has happened ever since 20. I get to be like, I'm married to a lady in her 40s now for 30 days until I turn 40.
We love to hear that as ladies.
Yeah. I know, that's right.
That.
Well, it was really, I was like, when I was 19, I go, my girlfriend, she's in her 20s. I was like, oh. Right. So them and Jackson and Roman are about to be 5 and 2. I think the biggest job I have amidst all this is to be a good husband first, and then a good father. I think if you're a good husband, that allows you to be a good father. As a kid who grew up in divorced family, and I remember very specifically waking up on a Saturday morning and being like, which house am I in? Because I was going back and forth all the time. I think that a lot of people think there's all these parenting rules, but really the first parenting rule is do your best to have a great marriage. And I think that's what I've tried to focus on and make my number one job, and then parenting is a close second. I feel like those are opportunities to hopefully allow those boys to make better decisions than I made at some points in my life. Certainly make good decisions about who they are, how they respect others, how they serve others, and those are big things. I love riding motorcycles. That's a thing for sure. And I actually used the pandemic to become a pilot as well.
Cool.
Knowing me, and people would laugh going, oh, sure, this is how Aaron relaxes, flying planes and going on motor. Yeah, there has to be some risk involved.
Is it a 4-cylinder plane? I'm hoping it's got more than a 4-cylinder engine.
It's six. It's six. It'll do it. Yeah, yeah. Just little prop planes, and I got my instrument rating. It's something I really enjoy, and it's given me some flexibility on travel and things like that. So I had to be careful. I think people hear that and they go, "Oh, Aaron's flying around private jets." No, no, no. This is a little prop plane, right? It's a little prop plane, but it's a lot of fun.
What's next on the horizon for XOI? As you look out your front windshield, what's the next challenge you're going to tackle?
Yeah, I think it's it's really interesting. We continue to focus on that curb to curb space. I think, as we think about what that means, we've been very heavy in the HVAC world. We'll continue to be very heavy in that space. I think what's interesting is other players in the ecosystem, are engaging and leveraging XOI. I want to be able to be, for our customers, kind of that system of record between the curbs that I think a lot of field service management solutions were not able to do as that market matured over the last 20 years. And it's not all of them, and I don't say that to be diminishing, but a lot of contractors bought FSMs. I actually use Synergy a lot, and I say, look, this is the most amazing peer group I'm aware of. And within their group, they've got like 17 different field service management solutions, right? Because, and you guys have been, together for a long time and working together, but the reality is like, there's a lot of options, and then everyone has a different option and they have different integration points. So when I think about that very specific space, we want to be able to be, hey, you want to use something great on the horizon that we don't do? Fantastic. Have it be part of the technician's workflow within XOI. Let's streamline that for you. You want to have access to OEMs because you like to buy from them and you want their technical support? Let's tie in Daikin Carrier trained technical support into your experience. Oh, you got kids coming from the UA? They're already on it, and they already have these workflows that we're working on. Let's tie their experience into that. So I think what you'll see from XOI is to start to continue to connect the ecosystem in meaningful ways that is synergistic. Sorry, I had to use that word. I'm not using your word, but is synergistic, right, to their experience, and hopefully being something where, Synergy members and any customer that we have go, man, I've got this single source of truth that doesn't limit me from continuing to innovate based on XOI's roadmap. I think that's critical. And I think a lot of FSMs hamstrung their contractors in that way, going, yeah, we'll get to the integration 3 years later, right? There's an active integration versus saying, hey, I have my tech platform and I'm not going to inundate my techs with 15 apps. I'm going to have them have one, and they can have 15 experiences as they need it, right? And so I think that's kind of where we're headed, and we'll continue to kind of coalesce there in that space. That continues to be a focal point for us.
I have one last question to get to know Aaron a little bit better. You mentioned your dad, after all these hard years, got himself a Corvette. So what? It was
about 20 years ago at this point, but yeah.
Yeah. So and you mentioned your musical love. So what is Aaron's Corvette? And when he gets into whatever that vehicle is, if it's not a motorcycle, what band or song are you listening to as you head off?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I got a question on a recent podcast. I said, if you had a song for your life, what would it be? What was the theme song for your life? And I threw him a bit of a curveball because I said I'm trying to evolve between Eminem's Till I Collapse and Jesus Culture's I Surrender Everything. So I gave him an Eminem song and a worship song when they were like, I don't know what to do with this. And I said, but that's a little bit of the complexity of me, because I could love to listen to that song. And of course, my faith's important to me as well, but you also may hear me say a curse word or two from time to time. But I think those two things, what I mean by that is that, this idea of transitioning control of, I can do it all. I got the engine to make it all happen, which you heard that from me today, and also being able to surrender things, right? And being able to understand that you can't put your best effort in. But in my mind, there's a higher power that also has a plan and control, and things that you can finally just go, I surrender this, right? And that's a hard thing for a guy like me. So I think, that's what I'd continue to think about. I, of course, it's pure music. I mean, anything that's got a beat, rock, I'd be in. I wouldn't be driving a Corvette. I'd be driving the same Wrangler I got, right? If there's anything, and maybe the Hemi Wrangler though, because that just came out and that's pretty awesome. But yeah, I think that continues to be the push and pull of my life, right there, and something I'm continuing to try to get better at every day. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not surprised the M&M. You did say you grew up in Michigan, right? So
you get claimed to Eminem, Kid Rock, Madonna, Motown, I mean, and all the amazing artists there. So yeah, you got to stake claim to a few of those guys.
Well, Aaron, you've been a wonderful, wonderful partner to Synergy and all of our members. We really appreciate you making time for us today, but more importantly, what you've done to help us become better in our own markets, taking care of our clients and attract people to the industry. It's pretty cool. An old guy like me seeing the advancements in technology and how we're making a difference. So cheers to you and to the team at XOI. You've built something really special.
Thank you, guys. Hey, I value all very much, and I appreciate this relationship, and I hope you know as deeply as I do. You guys are my favorite peer group by any stretch. You can put that out into the public. I talk to you about you all the time. No, your group is full of good people too, and I think that is one of the reasons I'm attracted to this space. This market, there's a-holes in every market, right? But this is mostly salt of the earth, amazing people. And you guys are the best representation. I know of that. So thank you for being that and continuing to be folks we can learn from in the partnership. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Well, you fit that bill too. And you've been a great partner. So thanks for being with us from the beginning. You were our first Synergy partner. You made a big impression when you walked into that room in your skinny pants and your big hair. And we love you for that.
Who is this big idiot? Who did they find this time? Look at this guy.
I kept looking at your hair saying, man, give me some of that, would you?
Awesome. It says, as long as I have it, it's as tall as I can get it. And then when it's gone, it's gone. So,
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Cheers to you, Aaron. All the best.
I appreciate it.
Take care.
Come on, drink storm with me. Come on, drink storm with me.